ನಾನು ಹೇಳಬೇಕಾಗಿದ್ದನ್ನ ಟಿ.ವಿ. ಆಚಾರ್ಯ ಅವರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಏನು ಅಂದರೆ, ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡಿಗ ಆದರೂ ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡ ಇಷ್ಟು ಮಟ್ಟರಲ್ಲೇ, ಸೊ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಕನ್ನಡ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್. ಒಂದು ಎರಡನೇದು ನನ್ನ ಧ್ವನಿ ಇರೋದೇ ಹೀಗೆ. ಸೊ ನೀವು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಕ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮೈ ವಾಯ್ಸ್. I am a journalist, so I am not going to beat around the bush. I am going to be a little more direct on this issue than my previous two speakers have been. ನಿಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಅಶ್ವಮೇಧ ಯಾತ್ರೆ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರು? How many of you have heard of the ಅಶ್ವಮೇಧ ಯಾತ್ರೆ? It's a very small percentage. Let me read out what the Encyclopedia Britannica says on Ashwamedha. Quote directly. Ashwamedha, Sanskrit for horse sacrifice, grandest of the Vedic religious rites of ancient India, performed by a king to celebrate his paramountcy. Grandest of the Vedic rites of ancient India, performed by a king to celebrate his paramountcy. Quote, an especially fine stallion is selected, an especially fine horse is selected and is allowed to roam freely for a year under the protection of a royal guard. If the horse enters a foreign country, its ruler has to either fight or to submit. Quote, the wandering horse is said to symbolize the sun in its journey over the world and consequently the power of the king over the whole earth. On successfully carrying out a horse sacrifice, the king could assume the title of Chakravarti. On successfully carrying out a horse sacrifice, the king could assume the title of Chakravarti. This is what the Encyclopedia Britannica says on Ashwamedha and the Yatra. In India of 2023, the Enforcement Directorate, ED, is that horse. For the last 10 years, this beautiful horse has gone through Punjab, Rajasthan, Delhi, Bihar, Bengal, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Telangana and Kerala, among other states, even Punjab too. As you will see, and as has been explained by Justice Hegde, all of these are opposition ruled states. This Ashwamedha has gone through all the opposition ruled states. I don't know how many of you are aware of a newspaper called Dainik Bhaskar. Dainik Bhaskar is one of the biggest selling Hindi newspapers in the country. Last year, when the Maharashtra government was dislodged by a section of the Shiv Sena splitting and going away to the BJP, Dainik Bhaskar had a fantastic headline. And these tell you a lot more about how gruesome this is, this Ashwamedha Yatra. The headline in Dainik Bhaskar was, ED ke saath Ajit. ED ke saath Ajit. In this case, E stood for Eknath Shinde and D stood for Devendra Fadnavis. Eknath Shinde plus Devendra Fadnavis is with Ajit Pawar. And the clue there is really how the ED was employed to destroy a constitutionally elected government and to bring a new party to power. ED ke saath Ajit. So when Dr. Chandrasekhar says we must address this audience on the issue of ED, I must must say with respect that ED is not just the only story. It's an alphabet soup. ಬರೀ ಇಡಿ ಒಂದೇ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಇದ್ರ ಜೊತೆ CBI ಇದೆ, ಇದ್ರ ಜೊತೆ IB ಇದೆ, ಇದ್ರ ಜೊತೆ NCRB ಇದೆ, ಇದ್ರ ಜೊತೆ CEC ಇದೆ. ನೀವು ಎಷ್ಟು ಬೇಗ ಇನಿಷಿಯಲ್ಸ್ ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, you can all see this as part of the current political paradigm. All of these forces have been unleashed on this country, has blinded this country into a certain direction, and that's what we have seen with this Ashwamedha Yatra. Let me read out a couple of numbers for you. These are very important numbers, and Dr. Chandrasekhar also briefly referred to them. In the 2 terms of the UPA, in the 2 terms of Manmohan Singh, 72 political leaders were under probe. 72. 43 of them were opposition leaders, as in they were not Congress or allies of Congress. There were 29 Congress and Congress allies who were under probe under the Manmohan Singh government. The reason I am saying this and quoting this is because this is not a game being played by the BJP alone. The Congress has also previously played it, but the BJP is playing it in a brazen fashion that beggars belief. So under the UPA, in the first 2 terms of the UPA, 72 political leaders are targeted for probes, 43 of them are opposition leaders, and 29 of them are Congress and allies of the Congress. Contrast this with the 2 terms of the Narendra Modi government of the NDA, BJP-led NDA. 124 leaders have been targeted, as opposed to 72 leaders under UPA. 124. 118 out of 124 belong to the opposition. 118 out of 124, which means 95% of people targeted, and by the ED in specific, but also by IT and CBI and others, is 95% opposition leaders. Just 6 of them belong to the BJP or its allies. Excellent journalism by a journalist called Deeptiman Tiwari of the Indian Express tells you that there is a 270% increase, 270% increase in the number of probes by the ED, IT, CBI, etc. in these last 10 years. Since 2014 specifically, there has been an 870% jump in ED probes. 870%. And between the UPA's 2 terms and between the NDA's 2 terms, there has been an 820% increase in the number of opposition leaders being targeted. These are extraordinary numbers whether you belong to the Congress or BJP or any other party. These are extraordinary numbers of arbitrary, selective targeting of individuals. I don't know how many of you are aware of a man called Lavrenti Beria. How many of you? Lavrenti Beria was, Professor Ramakrishna is the only hand going up. Lavrenti Beria was the chief of the secret police of Joseph Stalin. He had a great quote, or at least it's a great quote attributed to him. He said, "Show me the man, and I'll show you the crime. Show me the man, and I'll show you the crime," is the great quote attributed to Lavrenti Beria. The reason I'm saying this, citing this quote, is because none of us in this hall have a problem with corruption. None of us in this hall don't want action to be taken against the corrupt. I'm sure, I presume, at least. But what we should really object to, what we should really criticize and condemn unequivocally without holding back, what we should do is to really draw attention to the fact that this is selective. An 820% increase of probes against the opposition, a 270% increase in the number of investigations. These all tell you that this is very selective. This is really nothing about crime or judiciary or criminal justice system. This is really about politics that we are talking. This is about bringing down governments. This is about getting opposition people into your party. This is about silencing people. This is about a whole lot of tactics. This is really, so I come to something later in life in this speech. This is really about blackmail as a state policy. This is really about blackmail as a state policy. So, therefore, ED cannot look at and get back Nirav Modi. This ED can't go after Mehul Choksi and get him back. This ED can't go after Vijay Mallya and get him back. This Enforcement Directorate cannot question a Jai Shah, who is the son of Amit Shah, whose income increased by 16,000 times in the first year of this government. 16,000 times. And let me quote you an excellent example of the selective use of this. In 2021, the Central Bureau of Investigation told the Supreme Court in 2021, through the Solicitor General of India, that the stake in Hindustan Zinc Limited, a stake in a public limited company called Hindustan Zinc, a stake worth 39,000 crores. This is the BJP government, through a Solicitor General appointed by the BJP government, telling the Supreme Court of India that a stake worth 39,000 crore rupees was sold for just 749 crore rupees under the Vajpayee government, the previous Indian government. 39,000 crore rupees sold for 749 crores. In 2022, a year after this Solicitor General says this, the government tells the Supreme Court again through the Solicitor General that every line that the CBI said was false. That is the selective use of this probe, of these probe agencies that we must really look after. We must keep an eye out for. So therefore, while there is an 820% increase on attacks on the opposition, there is no attack on Himanta Biswa Sarma, who's caught in a water scam. There is no probe into Shivraj Singh Chauhan, who is accused or who leads a state during what's called the Vyapam scandal, in which 40 people commit suicide. There is no probe against a Narayan Rane in Maharashtra, who is accused in a housing scam. There is no probe against a Surendra Adhikari in West Bengal, who is in the Sharda scam. There is no probe against the Reddy brothers in Karnataka for some 16,000 crore rupees for the same reasons. What is common to all of these people? Himanta Biswa Sarma, Shivraj Singh Chauhan, Narayan Rane, Surendra Adhikari and the Reddy brothers. Either they are all now in the BJP or have joined the BJP. That is what we should really address instead of beating around the bush about what this issue is. To understand how farcical this is, let me tell you the story of the Enforcement Directorate Chief. His name is Sanjay Mishra. All you have to do is go on Google or whatever device you use and look for Sanjay Mishra plus ED. This is the man appointed, this tells you the whole story. This is a man appointed as the Enforcement Directorate Chief for a 2-year term in 2018. In 2020, this government, which talks of so much about against corruption, in 2020, the appointment order of 2018 is modified and the 2-year term is made a 3-year term. 2021 arrives and the same government, which talks so much against corruption, gives a 1-year extension to Sanjay Mishra. 1 more year, 2022 arrives. He gets a second extension as ED chairman. Only last year, in the middle of last year, the Supreme Court said enough is enough. Don't we have any more people in this country? And they said you must get him out of this office. Then the government again puts in an application saying, look, we are in the middle of some very heavy duty investigations on FATF Till that is complete, we can't push him out. Finally, in September or October, he leaves office, Sanjay Mishra. What does the story of an enforcement directorate chief getting extension after extension, what does it tell you about the country, about this government, about this country's attitude towards corruption? What does it tell you? Sanjay Mishra was appointed to office in 2018. Since 2018, there has been an increase of 505% of cases registered by the Enforcement Directorate. 505%. Guess the number of searches. We are talking of registration of cases. Let's not get technical. But guess the number of searches made by Enforcement Directorate since 2018, since Sanjay Mishra took over. 2,555% increase. 2,555% increase. All of this would be wonderful if this is a very corruption-free country. All of this would be great news if all the corrupt were behind bars and all the corrupt politicians were behind bars. But what does this tell you? It tells you a lot more that is happening behind the screens. And I can tell you as a journalist, the rumor in Delhi is that although Sanjay Mishra has left office, even today he is calling the shots. That is the stage we are in this great story of the Enforcement Directorate. Mr. Acharya referred to why we have got into this problem area. I think we must address one more issue, which is that the CBI does not need permission, needs the permission of the states to come to the states and investigate. What has happened is that the ED has been nurtured into this beast which can go into any direction, into a horse which can go anywhere without the permission of the states. I don't want to get into the details on how these circulars have been worded and reworded to enable, to weaponize the Enforcement Directorate. But let me just say that I agree completely with Justice Hegde when he says that our attitudes towards the criminalization of politics is the key cause of why we are where we are. The Enforcement Directorate is the new CBI and the CBI is the old ED. But the key reason why we are here where we are is because of the criminalization of politics. I invite you to read a fantastic new book which is available, which I think every single Indian should read. It's a book by Modi. Unfortunately, it's written by Ashoka Modi, not Narendra Modi. The title of the book is India is Broken. This is a book which will give you, each one of you, especially young, a perfect snapshot of why India is in this position. And he talks of these 75 years, not just the Modi years. So the criminalization of politics is what we should be really bothered about. One of the previous two speakers spoke of how the earlier CBI chairman, Alok Verma, was replaced by a man called Rakesh Asthana and so on and so forth. But let me just draw your attention to one word which appeared in the Telegraph Calcutta, where the author said, this reflects mafia-style politics. This reflects mafia-style politics. I don't know how many of you are aware and can remember the Alok Verma story. Mr. Alok Verma was the CBI chief. He was sitting in judgment over the Rafale papers, the papers produced by Yashwant Sinha, Arun Shourie and Prashant Bhushan to draw attention to the corruption in the Rafale scandal. And to stymie that investigation, Rakesh Asthana and Alok Verma got into the story. So the criminalization of politics, with this mafia kind of politics, is something we should be really concerned about. We should be concerned about what's called weaponization of these agencies. Weaponization. No one here can claim, none of us who are old enough can claim that this has not been done by the Congress or by any other party. None of us can claim that. But I don't think it's ever been deployed. It's never been the case that these agencies have been deployed at this industrial scale as in the last 10 years. What we should be really concerned is the destabilization of democracy. Mr. Narendra Modi repeatedly uses the phrase federal federal cooperation or something like that, about the states and the center. Cooperative federalism. He talks repeatedly of cooperative federalism, but never has the center deployed, or the ruling party at the center deployed these agencies to destabilize state after state. Maharashtra, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, a whole lot of states in the northeast. Never has this been done at this scale to destabilize state governments which have been elected to power by the people of this country. This is what we should be really concerned about. And what we should be really concerned about, and I completely disagree with Mr. Acharya here, is the co-option. That is at work. Parties are complicit. For example, we should not just blame the BJP for what the agencies are doing. The Congress has done something similar. Mr. Chidambaram writes articles like Mahatma Gandhi these days, every Sunday in the Indian Express. But Mr. Chidambaram has played a very key role in weaponizing many of these things as Home Minister, especially when it comes to the UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. So the parties are complicit. The judiciary is especially part of the destruction of what's happening in this country. Especially. Mr. Acharya only talks about what's happening in West Bengal. My God, what has happened to this country in these last 10 years with judiciary is something each one of us knows. 4 judges in the Supreme Court have to address a press conference. Judges have been appointed governors. Judges have got all manner of cabinets. There is one specific Supreme Court judge, Mr. Hanumanthaiah, who sat in judgment over every case involving the Adani group and cleared them at breakneck speed. Probably Mr. Acharya's position does not allow him to say so, but the judiciary is as complicit as the legislature in what is happening in this country. And I can speak for myself. As a journalist, I tell you that the media is totally complicit in what's happening. So I think what we are looking at in this country is that the 4 pillars of democracy, the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, and the 4th pillar, emotionally, the media, have really been, hammered down, have been smothered to the extent that we don't have any voice anymore. To again go back to Mr. Acharya's extraordinary claim that the judiciary is really one of the few pillars left, I draw your attention to an outstanding interview with Dushyant Dave just 2 days back, where he says that Justice Chandrachud has much to explain for. So I think we must be very clear about where this country is and why it is where it is. We are there for a specific reason, and that is that all these arms of the democracy have more or less collapsed. I suppose that in this country anymore nothing matters. Democracy has been reduced to a daily spectacle with some naughty, some drama, some spectacle, some event, some slogan, some stupid hashtag. We've reduced democracy in this country to a spectacle. And therefore, for many of us who are perhaps supporters of this government, or this ideology, or this party, whatever the ED does, or the IT does, or the CBI does, or the NIA does, whatever these agencies do, give us the daily spectacle perhaps. And none of us care for the details like all these numbers are laying out, because we are all so now in our own WhatsApp university. But what it is doing deep down to India's democratic fabric, we are all guilty here, and I speak for myself. We are all guilty for what's happening here, because we are just silently looking and applauding silently and maybe saying, oh, we are all very happily doing the typical middle class things, and I think this is a really strong inflection point in this country. Whenever you listen to the Prime Minister's Mann Ki Baat, and I hope none of you have, whenever you listen to his Mann Ki Baat, he talks of cooperative federalism, he talks of dialogue, he talks of consent of the people, he talks of sensitivity and compassion. But when you see all these things around us, do you even get the sense? Do you even get the sense that any of these things are at play, whether it is cooperative federalism and so on and so forth? So what we should oppose, my friends, finally when I come to the end of this, is the extremely selective, arbitrary application of justice, of norms. ED issued a technical circular in 2020. The Enforcement Directorate issued a technical circular in 2020, in which it was told that it would only take up cases of more than 1 crore or more. It's taken up the National Herald case in which 39 lakhs is in dispute. It has taken Chidambaram, a member of the bar, for a total sum of 9.96 lakhs. So the Enforcement Director says we only take up cases of 1 lakh or more, and it takes up a 9.96 lakh case against Chidambaram. ED says it will only take up cases of at least 10 crore or more in cities like Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, Madras, Hyderabad, and Bangalore, and Ahmedabad. And yet, it lets go a BJP MLA who was caught here in Bangalore for 8 crore rupees because it happened under 10 crore rupees. Look at again the application of norms, drug-related offences. A case is supposed to be filed if 500 grams of cocaine, 5 kgs of cannabis, or 100 kgs of ganja is caught or seized or confiscated. Look at the case of Riya Chakraborty, the actress who was the girlfriend of Sushant Singh Rajput, the actor. She didn't have, her associates had 59 grams of ganja. The rules say 100 kilos of ganja. She has 59 grams of ganja, or her associates have, and she's taken to the torture. So therefore, all of these reflect arbitrary, selective, application. Immediate bail is one issue on cases involving rupees 1 crore or less. Satyendra Jain of the Aam Aadmi Party has been in jail since May 2022. Manish Sisodia has been in jail since February 2023, although their sums of money are below 1 crore rupees. So therefore, this is what enables this Enforcement Directorate, which is punch-drunk with power, backed by forces which are extremely damaging and deleterious to this country. Therefore, this is the kind of arrogance which allows the Enforcement Directorate to go after 2 farmers in Tamil Nadu, 2 simple farmers, because they did not sell land to a particular BJP leader. So this is the position we are in. I'll close, I can see Professor Chandrasekhar getting restless. I'll close with this one thing. I don't know how many of you are aware of McCarthy, Joseph McCarthy. What we are seeing through all of these agencies, and again I'm not going to put lipstick on a pig. What we are seeing through all these agencies is McCarthyism of a certain kind. But again I'm quoting from the Encyclopedia Britannica. McCarthyism was the name given to a kind of period in the American history which saw Joseph McCarthy produce a series of investigations and hearings during the 1950s to expose supposed communist infiltration of various areas of the US government. So this is the kind of McCarthyist tendencies we are seeing in India, and we must really be concerned. Neither Justice Hegde nor Mr. Acharya address the issue, which is something that should be very close to them, and I'm sure it is to them. This is a case concerning a lady called Vijaya Tahil Ramani. Mrs. Vijaya Tahil Ramani was the Chief Justice of the Madras High Court. In 2019, she was the Chief Justice of the Madras High Court, one of the best courts in the country, most respected. In 2019, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India, Ranjan Gogoi, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India orders a CBI inquiry against the sitting Chief Justice of the Madras High Court, citing an unknown IB report, Intelligence Bureau report, about the Chief Justice, about apparently her closeness to a Tamil Nadu minister about her acquisition of property in China, Chennai, etc., etc. Dr. Vijaya Tahil is clearly a very dignified person. She is transferred to Meghalaya High Court as if Meghalaya belongs to some other country. She cannot take this affront and she resigns. In 2022, the Central Bureau of Investigation says it found no evidence of any wrongdoing by Vijaya Tahil. Guess where Vijaya Tahil is today, and guess where Ranjan Gogoi is today. If you are not concerned about these issues, about Chief Justices being appointed, governors, about Chief Justices getting Rajya Sabha seats, if you are not concerned about these things, I don't know what you are concerned about. And guess what Vijaya Tahil's great claim to fame was? She was the judge in the Bombay High Court. She was the judge in the Bombay High Court who upheld the conviction and sentencing of all the 11 suspects in the Bilkis Bano case. A sitting judge, a sitting Chief Justice in Madras High Court pays the price for an act she committed 15-20 years earlier. This is where we are. In this country, punishment is the process. Punishment is the process. ED claims a success rate of 96% in all its cases. But it does not reveal which of those cases, which case it's success. Let me finally conclude with this much. I draw your attention to a man called Justice M.G. Deshpande. Forget everything I said. Forget everything I said. Listen to a man called Justice M.G. Deshpande, a judge of a special court. He says, quote unquote, he says, Justice Deshpande says, ED moves at great speed to arrest, but at a snail's pace to conduct trials. He says the ED takes weeks to file a reply and casually seeks extension of custody. You can look at the case of Satyendra Jain and Manish Sisodia to understand this. But in the specific case of Sanjay Raut, the NCP leader, Justice Deshpande says, quote unquote, you can get this inscribed, this court cannot join hands with a vengeful complainant like the Enforcement Directorate. This court cannot join hands with a vengeful complainant like ED to humiliate accused persons by continuing their judicial custody in utter disregard for the law of the land. This court cannot join hands with a vengeful complainant like the ED to humiliate accused persons by continuing their judicial custody in utter disregard of the land. My final sentence is this. ED, when I was in college, and Professor Chandrasekhar was in college, and when many of you were in college, in all our college campuses, ED stood for Iroli Dosai. A beautiful, simple dish which we all enjoy. Today, ED is a potent force destroying democracy in this country. Once upon a time, the Supreme Court of India called CBI a caged parrot. Once upon a time, the CBI used to be also called Congress Bureau of Investigation, but the Supreme Court of India put a legal thing on it and called it the caged parrot. Today, the caged parrot of the past and this wild horse and this Ashwamedha Yajna are really destroying this country, destroying liberties, civil liberties, applying justice randomly, selecting people, picking on opponents, it's almost like an outsourced agency for conducting politics. If we are not concerned about this, and if you young people are not concerned about this, India is in far greater danger than it already is. Thank you so much.